Hello, it's Kate Northrup. I am back for my 5th of 5 Facebook Lives this week. I promised myself I would do 5, and I have. I'm really proud of that. I am sitting on the floor of our new apartment that Mike and I are renting temporarily while we build our house, and it is currently a mess because we're moving, but there's no internet at our current home where we live, so I'm sitting here on the floor. So, want to talk about mom guilt today. I've been talking about it with my friends over on Instagram, and if you don't follow me over there, please do. I share a lot of things over there at Kate Northrup on Instagram, and it's a hot and heavy conversation over there about mom guilt, and I wanted to talk further with you about it because it's a hot topic, and I'm curious about your experience with it. And just to be super clear, I'm not asking for advice on this Facebook Live, and I also don't have it figured out, but I have been thinking about it all day because Penelope my daughter, is 19 months old. She's a very early riser, and she got up this morning at 4:52 a.m. and started crying immediately because she wakes up crying, and 9 times out of 10, she wakes up crying, and there's a lot of crying in the morning. But at about 6:55 a.m. today, she dragged her daycare bag into the kitchen and had her boots on, which is rare that she can figure out how to do that herself. And she was like raring to go. She was so ready. And most mornings, she is the one who is trying to shuffle me out the door because she can't wait to go to daycare. So officially, we have 2 days of guaranteed daycare. We usually end up doing 3 to 4, sometimes 5 days of daycare on really busy weeks. So this week was a 4-day of daycare week because we're moving. We need a little extra help. But the thing is, so Penelope loves daycare, and she loves seeing her friends, and she lights right up, and she barely even says goodbye to me when I leave. In fact, she definitely doesn't say goodbye to me. She barely even notices when I leave, when I drop her off, and she's so excited when we get there. She like runs in and starts playing immediately. And yet, I drop her off, and every day I feel a little bit guilty. And so this morning I was pondering, what's that about? I'm really happy when my daughter's at daycare. I definitely miss her all day long, but I get to do the things I want to do. She's really happy when she's at daycare because she loves her teachers. They do all kinds of great activities. They're outside a ton. They do art, they do music, there are stories, there are all these great toys, plus the other kids. She is obsessed with other children. And so I was just thinking to myself, like, what's the deal with the mom guilt, given that I'm really happy with the situation and she's really happy with the situation? So I was sitting here thinking, and I've been noodling on it all day. First of all, I'd love to hear in the comments, what do you think mom guilt is about, and where do you think it originates? Do you think it's biological? Do you think it's cultural? Is it something... if you live in the United States, do you think it's something just in the United States? If you live outside of the United States, I would particularly love your input. Is mom guilt a thing in your culture? I was reading a really great book. I can't remember the author, but it's called Perfect Madness, Mothering in the Age of Anxiety. And it's by a woman who spent the first couple of years of motherhood living in France. And mom guilt wasn't a thing. And then she moved back to the Washington, D.C. area, and all of a sudden, all the moms around her, it was totally a thing. And it was really different, she said, living in Paris versus living in the United States and mothering. Just the perspectives on what mothers should do and the self-sacrifice and how perfect it should be was really different. So grab a copy of that book if you're interested in this topic as well. But I wanted to say, I believe, after thinking about it all day, there are 3 ways in which our mom guilt actually is serving us. I don't think it serves us all the time. I don't think it is worth ruminating on all day unless you're like me and you're just thinking about it from a perspective of just like sociology or anthropology. But there are 3 ways that it can help us. Number 1, I believe that it helps us to some degree keep our children alive, right? So I think that's a good thing. I think just from a basic human thing, our babies, in many cases, were made inside our bodies. Their cells actually partially remain within our bodies. And even if you didn't gestate your own child, there is this inextricable bond there that cannot ever go away. And so that feeling of longing that we have for our children, I think sometimes we identify it as mom guilt, but it's actually just love. And so the number one way I think that mom guilt serves us is that it reminds us how much we love our children, and it helps us to keep them alive and help them thrive because we're conscious of the way that we're parenting. Number two way that mom guilt actually, I believe, can serve us, should we choose to take this on as a perspective, is it helps us get in touch with what it is that we really want and the kind of mother and the kind of woman we really want to be. So when the mom guilt arises, it's an opportunity, like for me this morning when I dropped Penelope off and I was going to get a coffee and then meet up with my Team Northrup Freedom family members from our USANA team for coffee hour. I was like so overjoyed to get her out of the house because honestly, she's such a cranky pants in the morning. It's a relief when I drop her off and I'm just by myself because mornings are really hard at our house. And so I was having this simultaneously feeling of relief and feeling like I'm so happy she's so happy, and also feeling guilty for feeling that way, and also feeling guilty for the fact that, you know, I probably wouldn't see her for another like 8, possibly 9 hours because we're moving and we have a lot of stuff to do. But in those moments, it's a moment to run it through your internal filter and say, okay, is this something where I am just having kind of like a programmed thought that's my ego just trying to bring me down? Or is this something where part of me, my inner instinct or my inner wisdom, is trying to tell me something? And to me, any kind of guilt is an opportunity to get more clear on our desires because it prompts us to evaluate our behavior. And for me, it was an opportunity this morning to say, okay, you know, the reality is, if I'm really honest, I've been putting Penelope in daycare more lately than is my preference because we have a launch coming up and we're moving and there have been a lot of things on my plate and I needed to get things done. So she's been at daycare 4 to 5 days a week instead of maybe like 3 to 4 days a week. And just that one day makes a big difference for my heart. And so it was a really great moment to realize, like, yeah, you know what? It's not that I think I'm a bad mother for dropping her off at daycare. I have a business to run. I cannot do what I want to do business-wise and what I feel is deeply called to do business-wise with Penelope at home. I'm not one of those mothers who can like run an empire while I have children at home. I can't, instead I have her home 3 to 4 days. And then when she's home with me, I can really be with her other than maybe during nap time versus my days that are work days are really work days. So for me, that works really much better. I do know some women though, where they can integrate the two and it really works for them. So I think each one of us is wired differently. And so that number 2 reason is really, it's an opportunity to get more clear on our desires. It's an opportunity to get more clear on what kind of mother we want to be, and an opportunity to look at, am I comparing myself to somebody else right now? Or am I comparing myself to some sort of cultural standard that I am not even consciously buying into, but is causing me guilt? Because I will be totally transparent here and say, though I know for sure the only way to be a bad mother is to try to be a perfect mother, like I know for sure that's going to be the kiss of death, and I know I can be the best mother I can be, and that's what I can be, and I can be the best kind of mother that only I can be, and we all are different kinds of mothers. There's no ideal perfect mother, but I've been programmed, just perhaps like you, I don't know, you can please tell me in the comments below if this is also something lurking in your head, that like the ideal scenario would be a mother home with her child. I don't know why I have that as my ideal scenario in my head. That's not how I grew up. And that's not what I want, to be honest. I don't want to be home with Penelope all day, every day. But for some reason, I have this little meme that's the ideal scenario, even though I know that wouldn't work for me. It also wouldn't work for my child. And I also don't believe that that's natural. I believe it's natural for us to grow up in community and to have a lot of different adults around and a lot of different kids. My friend Tammy Kent wrote a great book called Mothering from Your Center. And in that book, she shares the story of a woman she met who grew up in a tribal culture, in a tribe. And it wasn't until she was 4 years old that she realized that she had come out of only one woman's body, that like she only had one mother, like actual biological mother, because the way they were raised in the tribe, all the babies were all the mother's babies, and all the babies had all these mothers. And when I read that, I wept. I thought there was some acknowledgement inside me that realized there's something so right about that. To have that feeling as a child that you belong to everyone. I mean, I don't know about you. Please let me know in the comments. Does that resonate with you? I mean, we don't live in a culture like that. And like, I love that Penelope knows I'm her mom and that we're deeply connected in that way. I love my little girl so much. And how cool is that possibility? The idea that we belong to everyone and all the mothers are our mother. And as a mother, that all the babies are your babies. And imagine if we lived in a world where that was the case, where that's how everyone felt. Things would be different. Things would be different. So all that being said, I do believe that more tribal way of doing things is more of an ideal. And I will say, part of the reason Mike and I just moved is because we're building a house in a community in the town I grew up in Yarmouth, Maine, where we are building next door to one of my girlfriends from high school who has a son who's a week older than Penelope. And right up the street is another one of my girlfriends from high school who has a daughter 2 weeks older than Penelope. And right down the street is another family who has a 2-year-old, and then they're about to have another baby. And so we are choosing to build there even though we have less land, because we will be in a community where there's that vibe of like, hey, go out in the street, go find someone to play with, and that feeling of everyone in the community has your back. You can walk to school, you can walk to get an ice cream, it's safe. So I'm on a total tangent here, but I do believe that this aspect of more communal living or community orientation, the more we can bring together moms, the more we can bring together dads, the more we can raise children with other people, I believe the more the mother guilt will dissolve. But there's a third thing, and this is a great segue for that. There's a third thing that I think your mother guilt might be serving you with, and that is becoming aware that we need a different kind of culture when it comes to mothering. And certainly when it comes to the intersection between career and mothering, specifically business for me, because I run my own business and I love to talk to other moms who run their own businesses. But no matter what your career is, if you've chosen to work outside the home or work inside the home on a career, I just feel like we still have this outmoded notion that it's not possible to be a good mother and to thrive in your career at the same time. And I personally am on a mission to dissolve that belief system and to prove it wrong. And so I believe the mother guilt is kind of like that awareness that something's got to change in our culture. And I will be right on the front lines changing it. And I invite you to do the same with me, should you be on board with that particular philosophy. And you can do that by, I'm teaching a free workshop called the Sustainable Success Workshop. And really a lot of it is about how can we be amazing mothers at the same time as being really fulfilled in our careers, really fulfilled in our businesses. What are some practical ways that we can do that we've never been taught before, that don't include just work harder, right? Like that's not really an option. As a mom, you just don't have the extra hours. Just work harder is like not a thing. And so, hey, Lori, so what I would like you to do to join that workshop is go over to sustainablesuccessworkshop.com. If you are on board with me and you're wanting to reimagine what motherhood and entrepreneurship could look like, please join in the free workshop. And remember, there are 3 ways that your mother guilt may be serving you. Number 1, it's helping you keep your children alive and thriving because it keeps us on point. It's like a system of checks and balances, and we're wired to keep these little humans alive, and thank goodness, because they're adorable and we love them so much. So that's just a really basic one. I think we could probably keep them alive without the mom guilt, but I think the two are interconnected. Number two, what the mom guilt does is give you an opportunity to really redefine and reassess, am I living in alignment with my values in terms of what kind of mother I want to be? And when the mom guilt comes up, you can really ask yourself, is there truly something that needs to change here? Or am I just kind of absorbed in the cultural thing that causes us to feel guilty as mothers, no matter what we're doing? So it's an opportunity to say, is there something about my value system and my behavior that needs to be adjusted here? And if so, great. That's great clarity. You can go do something about that. Or is this just like my ego, my monkey mind, the inner mean girl, just like jabbering away, in which case I'm going to get back to doing my life the way I want to do my life, because I know that the happier I am, the happier my children are. For sure. I know that for sure. And then the third way that the mom guilt serves us is to give us the opportunity to get on board with changing the way we do motherhood in this culture and changing our perceptions of motherhood and giving ourselves more freedom to have the fulfilling careers we want alongside of being the kind of mothers that we want. So that's what I've got for you today. Please comment below the video. I want to know what you think about mom guilt. Where do you think it came from? I'm not looking for advice about it, but I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? What are your experiences? And then also, if you have a friend who's a mom who struggles with mom guilt, please share this video with them. And of course, join me over at sustainablesuccessworkshop.com, where you can opt in for the free training that starts May 9th. And I will see you then. Thank you. Bye.